Caitlin Clark didn't hold a press conference or make a public demand. Instead, she delivered her message quietly but firmly behind closed doors, and it changed everything. In the midst of rumors swirling about the futures of Sophie Cunningham and Lexi Hull, Clark made it clear to Indiana Fever management. Keeping her trusted teammates wasn't optional. It was essential. For weeks, insiders speculated that Cunningham and Hull might be cut in favor of short-term roster moves. If you're here for the real story and not the filtered version, subscribe. And if you're sticking around for the next meltdown, you better definitely subscribe. But Clark's intervention shifted the conversation entirely. It wasn't about favoritism. It was about chemistry, trust, and building something sustainable. This wasn't just a rookie staking a claim. It was a rising star reshaping her team's trajectory. That behind-the-scenes influence marked a turning point not only for the Fever, but for the WNBA at large. Clark's ability to alter front office decisions without a public spectacle signals a sophisticated and evolving power dynamic, one where a player's value is measured in both stats and strategic vision. She didn't demand headlines. She demanded loyalty and alignment. Her influence is now woven into Indiana's foundation, and her leadership, quiet, calculated, and culture-driven, may become the blueprint for how future stars assert control without chaos. Caitlin Clark didn't wait years to become the face of a franchise. She walked into the WNBA and took that seat at the table. And now, she's flipping it over. Clark's latest move isn't about numbers, box scores, or brand deals. It's about control. It's about loyalty. And it's sending shockwaves through the league. The ultimatum is clear. Keep Sophie Cunningham and Lexi Hull on this roster, or risk losing me. Let that sink in. A rookie, technically, telling a professional franchise that her teammates stay, or her presence does. That's not just bold. That's power. And it changes everything. Caitlin Clark knows her value. She knows she's not just a scorer or a ticket seller. She's the engine. The reason Indiana Fever games are getting national coverage. The reason fans are tuning in. The reason seats are filled. She knows it, and she's using it. But what makes this move even more impactful is why she made it. This isn't about ego or stacking the roster with friends. This is about chemistry. It's about culture. Clark is looking at the bigger picture. She knows what a winning team looks like, and it doesn't start with analytics or spreadsheets. It starts with trust. And she trusts Sophie Cunningham and Lexi Hull. These aren't random names. They're her people, her core, the ones she battles with in practice, the ones who get the plays, understand the timing, bring the energy, and elevate the team's cohesion. So when rumors started swirling, roster cuts, changes, internal shakeups, Clark didn't wait to see what happened. She intervened. And this wasn't some passive-aggressive tweet or cryptic interview. It was real, direct, an ultimatum to management. Protect this core or watch the foundation crack. That level of influence? Unheard of at this stage of a player's career. She's only just arrived in the league, and already she's redefined the player management dynamic. Gone are the days of rookies being quiet, grateful, and waiting their turn. Clark is showing that if you have value, you use it. And what's even more shocking, it worked. Indiana didn't push back. They listened, because they know what she brings isn't just on the court. It's everywhere. It's in the locker room. It's in the media. It's in the fan engagement. She's not a future leader. She is a leader. Right now, Clark's moved to back Cunningham, and Hull wasn't sentimental. It was strategic. She's not building a highlight reel. She's building a franchise. And what she understands better than most is that you can't build anything without trust. You don't win with stats. You win with connection, continuity, loyalty. That's what this was about. Sophie Cunningham brings grit and toughness. She's physical, she's vocal, and she doesn't shrink under pressure. She complements Clark in exactly the way Clark needs. Steady, aggressive, committed. Lexi Hull brings calm and consistency. A sharp mind, great instincts, and a kind of basketball IQ that lets plays flow naturally. She's not flashy, but she's reliable, a quiet stabilizer. Clark knows the value of these players isn't always visible in the box score, but she sees it. And she wasn't about to let management miss it and make a mistake that fractures the team's progress. Because for Clark, this is about more than just playing basketball. It's about changing it. She's already being compared to the greats, not just because of her shooting, but because of the way she commands respect. Not demands it, commands it. Leadership at this level doesn't happen by accident, and it sure doesn't happen this early. But Caitlin Clark's actions are proving that influence doesn't wait for permission. She's not asking to be part of the decision-making process. She is the process now, and that's why this moment matters. Because she's not just changing Indiana. She's changing the WNBA. This move sent a signal, not just to Fever management, but to the entire league. Players aren't waiting anymore. The era of just shut up and play is done. Clark is showing that the best way to win isn't to work around the players. It's to work with them. And you better believe the other franchises are watching. Because if this is what Clark is doing now, what happens in year 2? Year 5? She's not here to fill seats. She's here to build something sustainable. Something that doesn't fall apart because a few numbers didn't align in a spreadsheet. Her loyalty to Cunningham and Hull is more than personal, it's cultural. She's saying, we don't trade trust for convenience. We don't swap chemistry for cap space. We build with the people who get it, and we ride with them. That's a very different approach from the traditional top-down style of team management. And now it's being rewarded. Indiana listened. They made it clear. They're building this team with Caitlin, not around her. And in doing that, they didn't just keep 2 players. They secured the future of their franchise. Because Clark's leadership, her real leadership, just became the new blueprint for what influence looks like in women's basketball. No press conference needed. No diva behavior. Just quiet, calculated, decisive action. This wasn't drama. It was strategy. And while fans debated on social media, comparing her to the legends, arguing over too much power too soon, Caitlin didn't say a word, because she didn't need to. The message was clear. I know what it takes to win. I know who I trust. And I'm not waiting for the system to figure out. I am the system now. This moment marks a shift, not just in Indiana, across the league, where young players, especially women, aren't just athletes anymore. They're stakeholders. And when they speak, the organizations listen. That's the legacy Caitlin Clark is already building. Not just stats and records, but agency. She's forcing the league to evolve in real time. So, if you're watching this thinking, is this too much power too fast? You're missing the point. This isn't a power trip. It's a power model. And it's one the next generation will be studying. Clark didn't just save Cunningham and Hull. She saved the core. She saved the culture. She drew a line in the sand and said, this is how we win. Not by cycling through names. By building trust and sticking to it. It's not loud. It's not flashy. But it's historic. Let us know what you think. Did Clark just redefine what leadership looks like in the WNBA? Should more franchises be involving players in these decisions? Drop a comment. Hit like if you're here for this new era of power plays. And subscribe if you want to keep following how the league is evolving. Because Caitlin Clark just made it clear. This isn't just her team. This is her league now. Let's not pretend this is just about one roster decision. This moment, Caitlin Clark stepping in and telling the Indiana Fever what will and won't happen with her teammates is bigger than Cunningham, bigger than Hull, and honestly, bigger than Clark herself. This is about how power moves through the WNBA now. Because up until this point, front offices ran the show. GMs made cuts. Coaches adapted. Players? They adjusted. But Caitlin Clark just broke that rhythm. Not with a press tour. Not with a sit-down interview full of cryptic sound bites. She did it through presence. Through certainty. Through knowing that her value to Indiana isn't just in the shots she takes. It's in the tone she sets. This wasn't a demand. It was a declaration. If you want a winning franchise, build it with people who actually know how to win together. And that's what makes this different. Clark isn't protecting her friends out of sentiment. She's protecting a system of trust, the very thing that separates championship teams from highlight reels. You want a contending team? You start with chemistry. You start with people who understand each other, who hold each other accountable, who've built something together and want to keep building. And in Clark's eyes, Sophie Cunningham and Lexi Hull aren't just teammates. They're teammates who matter. Now, was there backlash? Of course there was. Social media lit up the second this story broke. People questioned the optics. Should a rookie have this much say? Isn't this a dangerous precedent? What does this mean for the coaching staff's authority? All valid questions, until you remember who we're talking about. This isn't just a rookie. This is Caitlin Clark. She's not just good, she's generational. She's a walking franchise transformation. When she was drafted, the Fever weren't just gaining a player. They were inheriting a movement. Ticket sales exploded. TV ratings spiked. National headlines followed every step she took. And now, so do management decisions. Because when a player has that kind of reach, they don't just perform. They shape. That's what Clark is doing. And she's doing it with a level of nuance that should scare every exec in the league who's still stuck in the old way of doing things. She's not throwing her weight around. She's not undermining the coach. She's not demanding trades or torching bridges. She's just making sure the people who make her better stay in the room. That's leadership. And that's why this moment isn't a controversy. It's a case study. Because we are watching, in real time, the blueprint shift. Clark didn't wait until she had a decade in the league to speak up. She didn't wait until her second contract. She saw something fragile, team trust, and she chose to protect it. That decision isn't just bold. It's strategic. If you're building a franchise around Caitlin Clark, and let's not kid ourselves, that's exactly what Indiana is doing. You have to give her input. And it looks like they finally understand that. The fact that the Fever responded to her, adjusted plans, backed off rumor cuts, and retained the players she stood up for, that's not weakness. That's evolution. For years, WNBA stars have fought to be heard in rooms they carried. They built legacies on the court, then watched decisions happen without them. Caitlin's saying, not anymore. She didn't need a sit-in or a labor strike. She didn't need a viral rant. All she needed was leverage and the guts to use it. And now that she has, the landscape's changed. Because what happens when other rising stars start realizing they can speak up? 2, what happens when a player's influence isn't just measured in points, but in presence? Clark just flipped that switch. And she did it by putting loyalty front and center. That part matters more than people think. Loyalty isn't just a nice bonus in pro sports. It's a competitive advantage. You can't build anything long-term if players feel disposable. If the team changes every season. If chemistry resets every few months. Clark gets that. And by protecting Cunningham and Hull, she's saying, we build this the right way or not at all. Not with roster roulette. Not with short-term patch jobs. But with continuity. With trust. With teammates who've earned their spot, not just through stats, but through connection. She's making loyalty cool again. And for a league that's still fighting for broader visibility, cultural relevance, and long-term growth, that kind of leadership isn't just refreshing, it's essential. Because you don't grow a league by churning through players. You grow it by building stories. And Caitlin Clark just made herself the narrator. This is the beginning of something. You can feel it. It's not just about saving teammates. It's about redefining what power looks like in the WNBA. And Clark didn't need to make noise to make impact. She did it with precision. That's what makes this story so big. It's not loud. It's loud without raising its voice. It's the kind of shift that echoes slowly and permanently through the culture of a league. And everyone's going to feel it. Teammates, coaches, GMs, opponents, rookies watching from the wings, veterans rethinking their own agency. Clark just showed the roadmap. Be undeniable on the court. Be clear off it. Use your leverage. Protect your people. Shape the system. She didn't demand power. She embodied it. And the Fever? They'd be smart to keep listening. Because as long as Caitlin Clark is on the court and calling the right shots off it, they're not just a team with hype. They're a team with direction. There's a reason this story isn't fading from the headlines. Because Caitlin Clark didn't just challenge the system. She rewired it. What she did with this ultimatum wasn't a one-off stunt or a rookie mistake made out of emotion. It was a calculated, culture-shifting move that reminded the entire league, and maybe even some GMs, that you don't build greatness by gutting the glue. And that's exactly what Sophie Cunningham and Lexi Hull represent. Clark didn't need to explain this. She didn't go on some media blitz or post a Notes app statement. She didn't need to. Her message was understood instantly. If Indiana wants Caitlin Clark's full buy-in, her leadership, her energy, her presence, they need to stop treating her teammates like replaceable puzzle pieces. Because chemistry doesn't grow on trees. It doesn't come in a trade. You can't draft it out of a stat sheet. Clark knows this. She's experienced it. She just came off one of the most iconic college basketball runs of all time. Not just because she could score from the logo, but because she was surrounded by people she trusted. Teammates who understood her tempo, her style, her fire. That doesn't happen overnight. That's built. And once you find it, you protect it. That's what she's doing. She's protecting her system, her inner circle, the players who allow her to perform at the level she does. This is the part that traditional basketball minds are still catching up to. They're stuck in the idea that value is about the stat line, that a three-point percentage or a player efficiency rating can tell you everything. But you know what doesn't show up in those numbers? Trust. Who knows where to be when Clark is doubled at the top of the key? Who cuts when she gives that split-second look? Who keeps the locker room calm when things get shaky? That's not data. That's chemistry. Clark gets it. She's not asking for a super team. She's not demanding MVPs on her wing. She's asking for teammates who understand the assignment, not just on the court, but inside the culture. Cunningham, she's a fighter. She doesn't back down. She draws charges. She creates energy. Oh, steady hands. Great timing. Doesn't chase headlines. Just plays smart basketball. These are the players Clark can go to war with. So when rumors started floating that they might be on the chopping block, that's when Clark drew her line. Not out of ego, out of alignment. Because it's not just about what she needs to succeed. It's about what the team needs to succeed. And this is the twist. The front office listened. That never used to happen. Not for young players. Not for rookies. Not unless your name was on a banner hanging from the rafters. But Caitlin Clark is different. She didn't just walk into the league. She changed its gravity. The minute she signed with Indiana, everything shifted. Viewership, merch sales, sponsorships, national broadcasts. She is the moment, and everyone knows it, especially Indiana's management. So when she speaks, even behind the scenes, you listen. That's why this ultimatum didn't backfire. That's why Cunningham and Hull are still here. Because Clark didn't just throw her weight around. She leveraged it responsibly. And that's what separates a star from a leader. This wasn't about flexing. It was about building. Clark is building something in Indiana, and she's doing it with intention. Loyalty, trust, consistency. That's the core. That's how dynasties start. This move was a message, not just to the Fever, but to the league. Players like Clark don't just want to be faces of franchises. They want to shape them. And if you want to keep them, you better get comfortable with collaboration. Because this isn't just Caitlin Clark's team. It's becoming her vision, her ecosystem. And she's making sure the pieces around her don't just fit, they belong. You think this doesn't matter long term? Ask yourself how many franchises crumble not because of bad trades or missed draft picks, but because they fail to build around their stars' needs. Not just basketball skills, real human needs. Support, familiarity, trust, chemistry. Clark's move to protect her teammates is a blueprint for sustainability. She's not playing checkers here. This is long game strategy. Build your core, lock in your people, grow together, win together. And the league is watching. Front offices are watching. Teammates are watching. Fans are definitely watching. Because now the conversation has shifted. How much influence should a player have? And the answer, at least in Caitlin's case, is as much as she's willing to take. Because she's not doing it for personal comfort. She's doing it for collective. And that makes her different. We've seen plenty of stars rise quickly. But this level of awareness, of leadership, of intentionality, it doesn't usually come this early. Most rookies are trying to adjust, fit in, prove themselves. Clark walked in and started shaping the future of a franchise, not by dominating meetings, but by knowing exactly when to speak and what lines not to let the team cross. Sophie and Lexi weren't just names on a roster. They were the tipping point. Cut them, and you don't just lose depth, you lose direction. You lose the trust of the one person you're supposed to be building everything around. And now, Clark's made it clear that trust goes both ways. You protect the people who make the team work. You invest in what's real, not just what looks good on a stat sheet. And if you're not willing to do that, you risk losing everything. So no, this wasn't just a roster request. It was a franchise-defining decision. And Clark owned it. Quietly, directly, completely, and now. For the first time in years, Indiana doesn't just have a superstar. They have stability. They have a culture being built in real time. One that's rooted in loyalty, trust, and accountability. One that says, we win together or we don't win at all. Other teams should take notes, because this is a new standard. Leadership isn't about years in the league. It's about impact. And Caitlin Clark's impact? It's already bigger than the game. So what do you think? Did Clark change the way player power is handled in the WNBA? Should stars have more say in personnel moves? Are we watching the rise of a new kind of leadership in women's basketball? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Hit like if you respect what Clark is building. And subscribe if you want to keep following the shift that's redefining what power looks like in professional sports. Because Caitlin Clark didn't just make a move. She made a statement. And the entire league is still feeling it.